Everyone knows that we never went to the moon. Everyone knows that there are more anomalies and problems with the moon's existence than there is the evidence to explain it. There are millions of books, websites, and videos proving it. This is not one of them. This video is about ancient Oblivion, about a time as real as the present day, the time of myths and legends, the time before the moon. Now, if you had been told by a random conspiracy theorist or heard on some YouTube video that there was a time here on Earth when forgotten civilizations had never seen the moon that flies across our sky today, you might think it absurd and a waste of time to talk about. But what if I told you that some of the most renowned of the ancient Greeks and Romans, scientists, philosophers, teachers, poets, librarians, politicians, priests, theologians, authors, and psychologists all spoke of a civilization that existed in a time before there was a moon?
Alright everyone, what was Aristotle talking about when he used words like Arcadia and the Pelasgians? Well, I'm going to break these two words down for you real quick. You might notice the word Arcadia. In a lot of movies and books, it's used as a synonym for a place of paradise, like the place that everyone wants to get to, a safe haven. Now, let's break down this word Arcadia. What does it mean? Well, it's basically the word arc, or sometimes people put an H on it to make the word arch, right? What is an arc? An arc is really just simply something that comes down from above, curving downward. Right? Like the McDonald's arches is something that most people are familiar with, but it is an arch. It is something above, and therefore it conveys the meaning of being on top. So, for example, in the Catholic Church, they have archbishops, archangels, etc., and so on and so on. Now, those who are from the arch, or the arc, in your Semitic languages, those who are from is spelled O-N. Those who are from, or the on, those who are from the ark, or the arch, the archon, the archon, the archons, if you want to say it that way. Now, you have arc, then you have aid. Aid just means a result of. So a result of the arc, or an action from the arc, right? A result of the arc. But let's look at the ending of it. This is what's the most interesting to me. The IA, ya, arcade, ya. Why does it always end in IA? You hear so many of our countries around the realm end in the letters IA, and it forces you to pay homage to an ancient immortal, an ancient elven race, an ancient god, however you'd like to call it, named Ya. Also spelled like this. Ya. That's how it was spelled. For example, we've got Mongol Ya, Colombia, Nigeria, Lithuania, and Russia. Alright? Russia, Mongolia, etc., etc., and so on and so on. So, this literally means Yah's place of the arch. The place of the arch where Yah lives or is from. Now, another word for Yah, or EA, Enki. E-N-K-I. Okay? Enki. Now, if you want to know more about that god Enki and things of that nature, you can watch Enki and the Ten Commandments, another video that I've done. It talks about this particular god, very popular and very famous amongst all the religions of the world. But let's move on. So Arcadia is the place of the arcs where it comes downward, where it curves downward from above, where Ya, or Enki, is from, right? Arcadia. Now, Aristotle also talks about the Pelasgians, right? And I'm going to break the word Pelasgians down. I'm basically going to show you how it is, in my opinion, the word Pleiadian, okay? Now bear with me because we're going to have to learn some simple etymology, which means the study of words or word origins, real fast. Pleiadian, right? You might be familiar with the Pleiades constellation, the 7 sisters in the sky, who also happen to be associated with water, right? Water from above, or rain. Anytime it rained, a lot of times people would attribute that to the Pleiades or the Pleiadian sisters in a particular star system. There's 7 stars all grouped up together. Some people speculate that the word Pleiades derives from the word plane in Greek, which means to sail. There is another connotation with water. Now I'm going to show you how important that water connotation, that water meaning is, especially when it comes back to this particular ancient Elven or El or Elohim, whatever you'd like to call it, being, okay? But let's move on. Bear with me, we're going to go step by step. Okay, so here we go. The word Pleiadian actually derives from the word Pelagos. Now, I'm going to focus on 2 parts of this word. This is going to be the first part. P-L-E-I. Pelag. Right? We're going to actually cross out this E right here because there are no actual vowels in the ancient languages. I talk about that in some of my other videos. So Pelagos. Pela, and then you have this I right here. Now, let me teach you something about the I real fast. The I has gone through a myriad of evolutionary stages in various languages. But in English, it's the same exact letter as the letter G. The I is the same letter as the letter J. The J is actually the capitalized version of the letter I. There was no letter J until a few hundred years ago. They just capitalized the I by putting a hook on it. So, the I, the G, the J are all the same letter. As a matter of fact, the further back you go, the letter I was pronounced ye or e or yeah. It made a Y sound. So the letter Y, which also has a hook on it, is the same letter. See how it looks like a G, or it could be a J, or it could be an I? These are all the same letters, okay? So this I is also a G. Plag, or plag, or plage. It depends on how you say it through dialect and pronunciation in various cultures, how they change their lettering. I is the same as G, is the same as J, is the same as Y. They're all the same letters pronounced differently, eventually becoming earning their own symbol in the alphabet. But these are the same words, right? This word plagos means the sea, the ocean, the great body of water, right? So, playa, or pliage, or playa, however you want to say it, this also means, by extension, water, right? Or sea, or ocean. A great body of water is the playa, okay? Now, plag, or pelag, or pelage, however you want to say it, has carried over into some other languages today. I speak French, and I happen to know that the word for the beach in French is plage. Interesting, right? Same exact sound, because it's the same word. It means great body of water. Plage. In Spanish, it's playa. Remember I told you the Y can be a G, can be a J, can be an I, or a Y. Playa, plage, plag, play. They're all the same word. They mean great body of water. Now, or sea. Let's look at the rest of this word. Edian. Pleiadian. Why is it spelled funny like this? Haven't you ever wondered why Pleiades is spelled so funny with these vowels here in the middle? Well, I'm going to break it down. I want you to concentrate on the letter D right here. This letter was a mix-up a while back. In the ancient Semitic languages, when people wrote this letter, right, in earlier languages, if you look over here, I've written the letter D in Hebrew, for example, right? In modern Hebrew, this is the letter D down here. Now, The other letter in the alphabet that looks exactly like it is the letter R. The only difference between the R and the D is this little bit sticks out a tiny bit more right there. That tiny bit means that it's a D. If it comes straight down at a 90-degree angle, it's an R. So what's my point? My point is that not all the ancient people had perfect handwriting. As a matter of fact, they would just scribble things out shorthand, writing very quickly, and scholars of today have to sort of sift through their versions of what the symbols and the letters were. Was it an R or was it a D? This D is actually an R, okay? So this is Aryan, right? See if I could squeeze it in there. It's an R. Aryan, not Adian, not Pleiadian. It's Plage, Aryan. And Aryan, if you've watched my The Secret of the Elves video, I broke down the word Aryan, not something racist or anything that it's become today, unfortunately. The word Aryan basically means those of my immortals, or you could say other words like gods or whatnot, but the immortals were the Aryans. They were a very pale albino-looking race of what I believe to be the elven people, or the ancient gods. The Aryans. So this literally says Plage Aryan, which means immortals from the great sea. Immortals from the great body of water. Now, what great body of water are they talking about? I believe that the great body of water that held the Aryans was the ark, or the place of the ark above us. That great body of water that is arched above us, the place of the arch waters, the place of the gods like Enki or Yah, who are synonymous with being the water bearer, or synonymous with being from the waters. As a matter of fact, a lot of ancient cultures, they talk about, their gods coming from the waters or going into the waters. These beings, these Aryans or these elves or gods or whatever you'd like to call them, they came from the waters above. That's what I think Aristotle is referencing. The Pelasgians, which were the beings from the great body of water.
Aristotle was the student of Plato, and then became the teacher to a young man known as Alexander the Great. Once again, Aristotle wrote that Arcadia in Greece, before being inhabited by the Hellenes, had a population of Pelasgians, and that these aborigines occupied the land already before there was a moon in the sky above the earth. For this reason, they were called the Prosellenes. There was also another man named Anaxagoras, who was said to be the first to bring philosophy and the spirit of scientific inquiry to ancient Greece, and another man named Democritus, considered by many to be the father of modern science. Both taught that there was a time when the earth was without the moon. Giordano Bruno, 16th century Italian philosopher, writes, Theodorus writes in his first book that the moon had appeared a little while before the war which was fought by Hercules against the giants. Apollonius of Rhodes, a library at the Great Library of Alexandria, writer of Jason and the Argonauts, mentions the time when not all the orbs were yet in the heavens, before the Danai and Deucalion races came into existence, and only the Arcadians lived, of whom it is said that they dwelt on mountains and fed on acorns before there was a moon. Similarly, the famous Roman poet Ovid wrote, The Arcadians are said to have possessed their land before the birth of Jove, and their folk is older than the moon. Not all the orbs yet in the heavens, before the birth of Jove? By orbs, they mean the lights in the sky that we call planets, and by Jove, they mean the planet Jupiter. If there was a time before the moon, could there also have been a time before the planets? Immanuel Velikovsky, a noted historian, psychiatrist, and psychoanalyst, wrote a book called Worlds and Collisions. According to Velikovsky, not only was there a time before the moon, but a time before Venus as well. He wrote about how he believed that not too long ago in ancient history, many, if not all, of the planets were much closer to the Earth, appearing much bigger in the sky above us. He theorized that given the nearness and proximity, the planets had strange interactions with one another and the Earth below. His work was catching fire so quickly that by 1974, the American Association for the Advancement of Science felt obliged to address the situation by bringing Carl Sagan on TV in order to critique Velikovsky's theories. It's also worthy of note that in the 40s, before he even came out with this book, Immanuel Velikovsky produced a work called Cosmos Without Gravitation, in which, by reasoning, logic, and deduction, he put forth that gravity simply cannot exist. Now, following in Velikovsky's footsteps, I came across something called the Purple Dawn Theory, spearheaded by Troy McLaughlin. Basically, the Purple Dawn Theory says that once a long time ago in a golden age of the gods, that the planet Saturn was much nearer to our world, and it gave off a purple light and a glow that changed the colors of everything that we see around us. Now, if the ancient elven gods, as I believe them to have been, the elves of old, are represented as blue gods in many of the world's writings today, could it be that they were really the albino-looking gods of old turned blue by an ancient blacklight in the sky called Saturn? Moving forward, the Thunderbolts project, led by David Talbot, put forth the electric universe idea onto YouTube and other websites. They basically said that as these ancient planetary bodies were so much nearer to our realm that we live on today, that as they came near to one another and the Earth, that they gave off electrical discharge between them, and they seemed to war in the sky. They gave the thunderbolts of the gods. These were massive thunderbolts between planetary bodies and between them and our world. The Thunderbolts Project puts forth a compelling case that many, if not all, of the craters that we see on bodies like the moon and even on the surface of our own realm were produced by electronic discharge. These were the thunderbolts of the gods, giant lightning strikes of massive proportions. Have you ever seen an obelisk? There's 3 reasons that we're given as to why they may exist. The first is they take a familiar shape of a certain body part of an ancient god. I don't see it. The second is that they represent one of the crafts of the alien gods. Maybe we're getting closer. The third is that they're sun rays, paying homage to the god of the sun, shooting his own rays back up at him. I put forth the theory that these obelisks were stationed in particular places across the realm in order to draw the thunderbolts of the gods down upon us. Perhaps it was to keep the thunderbolts directed away from populous areas and major cities, or perhaps it was to harness the energy that came from them. And when the gods or planets had left, the people brought the obelisks back within their walls to pay homage to a time lost and forgotten to us today. Or as Morpheus on the movie The Matrix said to Neo, "We don't know who started the war, but we know this. It was us who torched the sky." Zulu legend says that the moon was brought here by the Python people aka the Elven race, Elohim, Elu, Azir, Silica race, etc., etc. Perhaps it's no coincidence that Aristotle referred to the Arcadians as the Aboriginal fathers that once inhabited the land before there was a moon. And the Aborigines in Australia worship the snake and cover themselves in pure white paint. It seems clear that what has happened in our past is far more amazing than what we've been led to believe. The critics of Velikovsky call it comparative mythology. I call it putting the pieces back together. The question that begs an answer remains. Why was the moon introduced? I have a few theories. Here are 3 of them. Number 1. The moon and the sun were introduced as weapons in the war against the Titans. The sun may have been a factor in turning the Titans or trolls in the ancient world to stone. The moon is blamed for making people crazy, lunatics, loony, lunar, and brings out the base nature or werewolf in man. It emits a cold light. We've been conditioned to think that if we didn't have the moon, life would not survive here on Earth. We've been conditioned to think that we need the moon. We don't. Number 2, it's a trap. The moon literally pulls in heat and therefore energy toward it. Some have speculated that it may be a disruptor of the reincarnation cycle, the literal light at the end of the tunnel upon death, which aims at sending the soul back to Earth prematurely before the soul can shed all of its prior identity. It also may be involved in strengthening the veil of forgetfulness called Maya by the Hindus, which covers soul energy upon re-entry, so as to forget prior experience and knowledge. If there are worlds and planes of existence above, below, and surrounding this realm, and the winners of the war against the Titans wanted to ensure that negative energy would not escape physically or in the ethereal dimension, this would be a good tool to ensure that it stays that way. Of course, it may be possible that the tool may have become corrupted, hijacked, glitched, etc. And number 3, the Watcher's theory. The elven or god race of beings locked themselves in the moon, and they were able to watch the state of this realm from the moon, and perhaps some were left behind, until humanity has had every chance to evolve and grow, and the day comes when the elven race returns and this realm is purified and prepared for the return to the state that it was once in a time when the moon was not needed, back in ancient Oblivion, in the time we refer to as paradise, in a time before there was a moon.
Forward.